Welcome to the Retired Athlete Mentality Podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the stories of former collegiate athletes who have transitioned from the competitive world of college sports to the grueling but rewarding world of endurance racing. Each episode, we bring on athletes who have gone from courts, fields, and tracks to marathons, triathlons, and even ultras. School's back in session. Welcome to the show. What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Retired Athlete Mentality Podcast. I'm your host, Jamal from Running State University, and on this episode, we have Felicia Pasadyn from Harvard University. At Harvard, she was an elite swimmer with many accolades. She was an Ivy League conference champion, 5-event Olympic trials qualifier, NCAA Elite 90 award winner, and a recipient of the Harvard Radcliffe Foundation Prize. After graduating Harvard in 3 years, she earned her master's at The Ohio State University, where she became an NCAA All-American, individual Big Ten champion, and a school record holder. Felicia is now pursuing her MD at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine while also competing at an elite level and recently qualified for the U.S. Olympic Marathon Trials with a time of 2:35 at the New York City Marathon. Felicia, let's talk about your retired athlete mentality. How have you been?
Well, since graduating from Harvard and finishing my time at OSU, as a swimmer, I think I've done my time and I really enjoyed it. But I've been still thriving and enjoying life ever since swimming ended, even though I missed certain aspects about it. I think that running and medicine have really taken up a lot of my life. So it hasn't been too sad since being a retired athlete.
That's right. And to be clear, although we're calling you a retired athlete, you've graduated from college, you are still producing at a high level. And so you are far from retiring in this running journey. So
Yeah.
we just want to make sure everybody knows that's clear, that you are still pushing pretty strong.
Yes.
So let's go back to when you were a little bit younger. You started sports at a younger age. How did that lead you to getting recruiting?
Sure. So I started swimming at 4. That's when I did my first ever swim race, and then did competitive club swimming all year round from ages 4 all the way through senior year of high school, and then started cross country and track in 7th grade and did that all the way through senior year of high school. Fun fact, I actually first began being recruited for colleges by running coaches because at the time I was getting recruited, I had finished my sophomore year with a 4:49 mile and a 10:38 2 mile. And those were such recruitable times for a wide range of universities across America that I think coaches were very eager to see what I had going on and see where my interests lied. And at that point, I actually wasn't sure whether I'd swim or run in college. So junior year was pretty stressful because I would have like a Wednesday night call with the Stanford running coach and then a Thursday night call with the Georgetown swim coach and the Friday night call with the Harvard running coach. And then like it was kind of wild. But then when I suffered my first only ever stress fracture in my 4th metatarsal as a junior, I decided to go full force in the pool because I thought that was best for my body at the time. And still have no regrets about that because the recruiting process for swimming it was like I was looking at different families. Like the team was such an important aspect, and I really fell in love with what Harvard had to offer on a lot of fronts, but also especially the swim team. So by the time it was a spring of junior year, I knew that I was going to Harvard and would swim on the swim team.
Yeah, so you mentioned there's a lot of schools that were reaching out. Was there a top 3 or was Harvard a far number 1?
Early on, my top 3 were like Harvard, Yale, Princeton. I'm talking like still also looking a bit at like Georgetown, Duke, and Stanford. It was strongly preferenced for me to go to a university that cared a lot about athletics and that I would thrive, but had a super strong like pre-med and academic program and that wasn't so focused on athletics that would deteriorate from my dream to become a doctor. And so all those schools I mentioned, I felt like at the time had that balance. But then Harvard, in my opinion, I know I'm biased, but Harvard did it the best, so I had to go there.
Of course. And so would you say that there were any external, influences that you had to pick Harvard?
Yeah, I actually at the time had a sister named Cassandra who was already on the swim team. And she would frequently FaceTime home and talk about how solid her friendships were, how supportive the team was, how much she loved to swim. And her and I were teammates all through high school. We were on relays together. She was like my inspiration and my rock throughout freshman and sophomore year of high school swimming when she was like still on the team with me. And so to be able to be recruited with her on the team and follow in her footsteps, I think was such a treasure, and know that I was moving to Cambridge, Mass, and a sibling would be there felt super special. So that was a component of it for sure. But I also knew going into the process, since I was still between swimming and running, and her story was a bit different from mine. I did try to look at it more in a vacuum and then just think about that as an added benefit. So I truly did fall in love with Harvard myself, and then it was like, "Oh, it's gonna be great that Cassandra's there as well."
Yeah, that's awesome to have a sibling at the college that you're going to at the same time, especially
Yeah.
at one like that, where your academics is pretty high
Mhm,
and competing at a high level in swimming.
mhm.
So just having a rock is so
Definitely.
helpful to be there while you're there. And so you got there in 2019, right?
Yes.
So did you make a strong immediate impact on the team once you got there?
Yes, I do believe I did. I came on and was on, like, in the context of swimming at a big meet, for example, like a midseason invite or at the Ivy Championship or NCAAs, you can only swim on 4 of the 5 relays, and I was an A relay swimmer for all 4 of the relays and, was the best in my, like, respective events and had set school records as early as our midseason invite. So by December of 2019, I was already doing very well for the team. And but it that wasn't isolated. Like, in other events that I wasn't as strong at, there was a cohort of individuals who were also at, like, an NCAA All-American level. It was really nice to feel like a very well-rounded team that prioritized swimming very strongly. And I feel like that goes against the mentality that people who go to Harvard might not care as much about sports, like, they're just there for the academics. I feel like that was very much not true. I think people on Harvard Women's Swim and Dive take it seriously. So, it was so inspiring to be in a team like that, and I was already getting best times, like, from a just completely personal level, not measuring against anyone else on the team, to be getting PRs freshman year of college when there are so many reasons why it might be hard to do that, whether that be
Yeah.
away from family, new diet, new academics, like walking everywhere, new team coaches, every adjustment reason why it's hard to PR. To see best times was really great.
Yeah, and how did your team take that? Was it something that they allowed you to do, as in becoming a leader on the team when you were putting up times like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think that the culture about Harvard Women's Swim and Dive, as opposed to other collegiate teams that I would hear from my friends who committed to other schools, I guess I would say,
Yeah, sure.
is that there was not a culture of cattiness or like a let me stomp on others to rise to the top, and more of a every single moment we see someone in our team have a success, we take that as our own. And the fact that I felt that about my other teammates too, it was like we all felt that way. Like, I was not good at the 50-yard freestyle because that's a very sprint event and I'm just not really built for that. But if I saw my friend, teammate PR and win for Harvard in a 50-yard freestyle, I was elated. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is so exciting." It makes everyone on the team look better.
Yeah.
So, I do think that there was definite space for, like, a lack of jealousy and instead just a complete uplifting and empowering of each other.
Yeah, and I believe your second year was the year of COVID, right?
Yeah, so that year, Harvard did not let anyone on campus except for the freshmen, so I was actually doing Harvard from home at that time and just training on my own.
Wow, can you talk about how that training went on your own?
Yeah, it was pretty miserable, I'm not gonna lie, and the reason is because I loved Harvard Women's Swim and Dive so much freshman year. I mean, I thrived. I if we're looking at percentage time drops, it was the team for me at least at that time in my life. So then to go from that high of making NCAAs, Ivy League champion in every single event I did, to going home and just going back to like some club team practices, or because of how rigorous the Harvard schedule was on Zoom, doing a lot of them at like 5 a.m. on my own, staring at a black line. It was horrible. It took all of the fun reasons why I love swimming out of it and left only the grit of just the working out and increasing your VO2 max and lactic acid threshold every day, which like no one like That's not the reason why people do sports. Yes,
Yeah,
we love the
exactly.
personal challenge, but that's only part of it. It's mostly like the people. So it was really, really hard. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and did Harvard I believe Harvard didn't give athletes essentially an extra year, is that right?
Yeah, no, we did not
Which
give it.
was different than other colleges who have athletes that were at the time getting an extra year or
Mhm.
2 with ending up with 6 years of eligibility.
Right. Exactly. And you want to know what's so interesting about this concept is there were schools that still had a Big 10 or a conference championship and an NC's that 2021 year and
Yeah,
still got an extra year of eligibility. So they had 2 more years. You're right, the 6, that's where the 6 comes from, than Harvard did, which was Ivy League's did conference champion, that couldn't happen that year. And they didn't give extra year of eligibility, which is really shooting our conference in the foot because people who took athletics very seriously were shunted to other programs instead of continuing to build and rise up in the Ivy League. So that was
yeah.
very frustrating, but it's out of our control. That was just what the admin higher in the Ivy League decided. So I just kind of took it at face value and said, well, when after I graduate Harvard in 3 years, I'll go and use my eligibility somewhere that will give me a full ride. And so that's kind of where I ended up going with OSU.
Yeah, let's go into that. In your last year, you graduated from Harvard
Yeah.
in 3 years. Let's
Yeah.
just let that be known. 3 years is not the norm. You go to Ohio State, and how was that different from Harvard?
You know, it's really difficult to compare because if you just think about how much money in the Big Ten is shunted to athletics versus the Ivy League, you can't. It's like comparing an apple to an orange and saying like
Yeah.
which does the color purple better. I'm like, well, it's an apple and an orange. What question even is that? Like, you can't really compare it. But I will say the resources for student athletes specifically were so pronounced and really robust at Ohio State. Whereas at Harvard, they always said any resource a student gets, every student should be able to get that. So if there's specific tutoring for athletes found at Ohio State, you'd find free tutoring for all students at Harvard. But then again, that sort of diminishes it, right? Because if you're giving it to
Yep.
all the students, then inherently things will, like dining halls and tutoring or extra resources, will be a little bit dampened. I mean, the athlete dining halls and the recovery, like areas and athletic trainers, massage
Yeah.
people. It was insane, the
Oh,
facilities
yeah.
Ohio State had. So I really liked that aspect. I will say though, there was definitely it made that application cycle to medical school when I was extremely engrossed in in high level interviews, and it felt like a lot of pressure because I'm like, this is going to be the next 4 years of my life, or I thought
Yeah.
it was going to be 4 years before I decided on a 3 year medical school.
There you
Um,
go.
I felt like there was definitely less of a pre-med emphasis. In fact, that was kind of like yeah, we like Felicia on our team, and it despite the fact that she's pre-med.
Mhm.
Whereas at Harvard, maybe it was a bit more like, we love like women that do like 18,000 other things too with swimming.
Yeah.
But again, like, and I say this neutrally because there are pros and cons to both mentalities, right? Like
Right.
OSU, my year went to get 7th place at the NCAA championship, and Harvard would celebrate getting like 32nd in
Yeah.
NCAA. But then maybe there are more pre-med people I could relate to at Harvard than I could at OSU. So it's like it really goes back and forth. I will say going in the direction from an Ivy League conference to a Big Ten made a lot of sense for me because the level of lifting and practices was higher. And I
Yeah.
could see it in the results because I PR'd in every single event by the time I finished my career at Ohio State. So for me, the program build up from Ivy League to Big Ten worked very well.
Right, and so did you only have 1 year of eligibility left, or
No,
did
I
you have an
had
extra
2,
one?
which was something that
Okay.
the head coach was, he would like to, address that every once in a while.
Yeah.
Say, "Are you sure you're
Yeah.
ready to go to medical
Please.
school?" Yeah, and I'm thinking, I just interviewed with Columbia yesterday, like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty in it right now for the med school thing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild because you can really tell how you have 2 amazing dreams that are really intertwined,
Mhm,
and you've made them work really well. You started your master's in bioethics
mhm,
while you continue to swim. So it's the dream of medical school while also pursuing your swimming, which is pretty wild.
mhm.
One person would be okay with one of those dreams, but you're doing them both and making them both work, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was a huge time commitments on all fronts. Like, sometimes I felt like I was living 3 different lives on Ohio State's campus, like smushing a 2-year master's degree into one, conducting so many medical school interviews, and also swimming. But I also loved all 3 things, so I was, like, here for it. I think when you love what you do, you can do it.
Yeah. And so you finished your career as an All-American, which was a big goal for you, and a
Mhm.
Big Ten champion. Then you moved on. At what point did you decide to transition to run?
I always ran though all the way through freshman year of Harvard, all the way through ending as a master's student at Ohio State. I ran 2 times a week. So when I said goodbye, and I put that in quotes for people who are listening, but to running as a senior in high school, I knew I was gonna come back. I knew I was going to be an adult runner and would enjoy doing road races. Granted, I had no idea I'd do it at the level I'm doing it right now, so I'll just say
Right.
that. But I thought like, oh, it'd be so fun to do like 1 or 2 road races a year as an adult, or like a post collegiate athlete to just keep up with fitness and also integrate competition and community into my life. So, because of that, I just always ran on like Wednesdays and Sundays or Tuesdays and Sundays for 2019 through 2023. So, it was never like a moment decision where I was like, okay, now I'm a runner. I just always was that in the background. But the moment where I'm like, okay, now I'm a swimmer, like past term, and a current runner was the day that I ended my last 200-yard butterfly was my last swim race at the NCAA championships in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I started that day. I did a 5-mile hard, like threshold-ish run on the treadmill at the hotel gym in my Ohio State gear because I decided I wanted to do the Cleveland Half Marathon and felt like I was decently trained because I had such this cardio base from swimming and had been running 2 times a week this whole time. So I just felt like it was a natural transition for me.
Right. And so I've talked to a few different athletes, and each one ranges from a couple years to a little bit after college. But you were like, I think we can say like hours,
Yeah. Yeah, about 3 hours after my
3 hours.
race, I was in the hotel gym, yeah.
Yeah. So why so fast? Why not, take it easy? You're getting ready for med school.
Mhm.
Why jump right into it?
I really wanted to do a half marathon before medical school because, okay, at that time, I'll admit this is so, like, not me, what I preach because it was very much I don't believe in myself moment. I
Yeah,
thought, when I get to medical school, I'm gonna be so busy that I'm not gonna have time to do any road races. This is what I was
sure.
thinking. Because everyone's like, "Med school is so hard, Felicia, you're not gonna
Yeah.
have time for anything, like, it really consumes a lot of your life because becoming a doctor is so difficult, and you have to learn so much, it's like drinking out of a fire hose." And the truth is that that is true to some extent, but everyone needs balance in their life in their own way, right? And, like, whether that's someone picking up knitting, which well, I do actually like doing that, but like super hardcore or working out or whatever their
Yeah.
thing is, maybe they have a significant other or a kid they spend a lot of time with, you can do it. But at that time, I didn't know how hard med school was going to be. So I thought in May of 2023, before July 2023 hits, I wanted race. So that's kind of why I felt like a perceived time crunch.
Yeah, which is kind of like after doing a little bit of research on you, it's kind of the opposite, like you said, of what you do now, which is
I
like,
know, because now I'm like, everyone can juggle it all. Like you definitely
yeah,
can. But
yeah,
you also just get tougher, like, the more things you accept into your life and the more ambitious your goals are, you'll look back and be like, "I can do it," you know? I just think at that time I didn't know what my balance was gonna be, so I figured, might as well foresee my running career quickly now before med school and it all goes to, crud, but it doesn't. Now in hindsight, yeah.
yeah. And so you mentioned that first half marathon. Which one was it?
The Cleveland Half Marathon.
And how did that go for you?
It went great. I got 2nd for females and went a 1:20. So it was a solid race for sure, and it was just fun. I just loved it. And I think that was even more than me giving these statistics I just gave. Um, it was one of those races where you finish and you're like, I want to do more road races.
Yeah,
And the moments when that change your brain chemistry, I feel like are more iconic and important in someone's life than like what they placed because it gave me a goal. Like in med school, I want to do one road race every 6 months, and then the goal changed to like one road race every 3 months. Then it was one road race every month. So
Yeah.
half I like to think of as sort of like beginning that ball snowball effect.
Yeah. So you mentioned goals. Can you talk about goal setting? So you have a lot of aspirations to do a lot of different things.
Mhm.
How do you goal set? Is it something you write? Is it something that you just fall upon? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty concrete about my goals, I would say. I separate them into this is, like, so type A of me, I don't even like saying this, but I separate them into, like, short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals.
Yeah, you
And,
have
like,
to.
I would sometimes just have, like, a daily short-term goal. Like, today I wanna submit this manuscript to this radiology journal, so that they can read over it and see if they wanna accept this, like, first author paper I'm trying to get published. Like, that might be, like, a weekly short-term goal. But then I also have long-term goals, like, eventually I wanna run all the world marathon majors. So for
Yeah.
that, I don't have that, like, written down in a Google document or anything with specific plans. I just know that, by the time I'm 60, I'd like to look back and be like, "Oh, Tokyo Marathon was really fun.
Yeah.
Well, swimming was cool." But, yeah, I would say for the medium and short-term ones, I do kind of like between Notes app or Google document, and, what's even more important than the goal is, like, what I envision the process to be.
Yeah.
So if I say I want to, PR at Boston, it doesn't really even matter. Does it really matter if I PR at Boston? No. What
Right.
matters is how much I learn from creating my own training build, what worked, what didn't. When I write on my Google document that I did like a stare and cycle, and then the next day I ran, like what did that feel like? I think all the process really is more important than the goal.
Right. And so at this moment, you're kind of on your own. And we talked a little bit about it, where there's a lot of elite facilities, elite
Mhm.
staff, coaching. How do you continue to stay at a high level without all of those perks that you had at Ohio State?
Oh, well, running is just I feel it is more of a self-maintaining, self-driven sport than swimming, having teammates, like, to your left and right pushing you during a set and then coaches to, like, get your exact splits. It's more mentally taxing to do that all alone. Like, I actually don't think I could be a self-coached swimmer because every workout is an interval workout. Whereas
Hmm.
in running, for instance, a paid coach might tell an athlete, "This Saturday, you have a 20-mile long run." Like, that's not really coaching, that's just
Yeah.
like, the athlete does it all, you know? So, for me, I think I learned what I needed to learn from Harvard and Ohio State, such as in the weight room, about fueling, about recovery tactics that work for me, about how to sleep really well. So, I'm super thankful I learned those coaching-based things earlier and now can integrate those in my life. But as far as, like, running as a sport, I feel that I don't know, maybe this is a hot take, but you can self-coach pretty easily. Or even,
Hmm.
like, run a ChatGPT, like, the BA, the Boston Athletic Association gives, like, marathon plans, and you can just pick
Yeah.
the one that works for you and then listen to your body. So, for me, it makes a lot of sense to just coach myself.
Yeah, I think that might be a hot take. I think I would tend to agree with you. I generally will find a program online,
Mhm.
shape it to my life, and then go with that. But I could see both sides where someone needs the accountability, someone
Right.
needs someone in their ear,
Yeah.
as opposed to you, who has been doing this for a very long time and
Mhm.
knows what that takes to say, hey, I'm not going to sleep in,
Mhm.
especially with your sleep routine.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna get my sleep, and that's the rule, and
Mhm.
then I'm gonna work out. And so
Yeah.
it depends on who you are, but I can see how that's definitely something that, hey, if I want to run a marathon and I want to be disciplined, I can get this good.
Mhm. Right, and I realize I'm coming from an extremely privileged position in that I've been coached by cross country and track coaches since from 7th through 12th grade. I had a
Yeah.
range of exposure to different styles, and you just passively or actively reflect on what worked and what didn't. So then by the time like now I'm 23 years old, I have a lot of like background on what works in. But I will give the caveat that like let's say you weren't in any athletics and then at age 30 you decided, "Oh, I just turned 30. You know what I'd like to do in my 30s? Run a marathon." And I don't know where to
Yeah.
start. Then I understand that feeling very overwhelming. So I'm blessed that I had such a strong athletic background growing up to empower me to know all of this um about listening to your body and building my own run plan.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when I talk to essentially athletes that have been doing this for a while, especially because they are college athletes and
Mhm.
you generally find yourself doing this starting at a young age. Most of them have that routine where it's just like I know how to coach myself because of what I've had before.
Exactly, yes. And like, it's so funny because that kinda goes with the podcast, but, like, the
Yeah.
mentality you never lose.
No.
Even if you don't know exactly what your threshold day workouts,
Yeah.
like, on your Thursdays for marathon training, like, should I do 6 by 1Ks or should I do 4 by miles, right? That doesn't really even matter. What matters is that
Yeah.
you're up, you're on the treadmill, or you're out in the park doing your thing and getting your heart rate up to zone 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Like, that's just that mentality, so you never lose that.
Absolutely. And so we talked a little bit about it, but your training program has kind of become pretty viral because of the combination of your weekly miles, your cross training,
Mhm.
the times that you're producing on race day. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, for me, it made a lot of sense because as someone with a stress fracture during a very vulnerable time in one's life, like you're an impressionable sponge at 16 years old and you don't forget things that happen that are big in your life. So after that stress fracture, I just decided like I don't want to be injured again. I don't like it, which
Yeah.
obvious, but I was willing to go to any length to, avoid a bone injury, 'cause those are just the worst. So when I exited, swimming at 21 years old and knew that my body wasn't used to the mechanical load, but was used to the cardiovascular pushing, I just decided a 3 or a 4 or every other run day week plan would work for me. So I ran every other day for, like, a year. And then on my off run days, I would just, it used to be a lot of cycling, but then really fell in love with the Stairmaster because you can sort of multitask really easily on the Stairmaster since it's just so darn repetitive. And yeah, I find it works really well for hills and I can push myself on it, sprint on it to like touch zone 4 and 5. Same with cycling too, honestly. And then I never wanted to let go of strength training because A, I just like it. I
Yeah.
really enjoy making gains in the gym and it's injury prevention. And then hopefully makes me faster. I like
That's
to
right.
think that it also is doing that. Like I was not trained at all for the road mile that I did with the New Balance NYRR road mile that I did like
Yeah.
in July, but I kind of think that with enough strength training and like half training, you can just like whip out a mile. But I owe a lot to the weight room, I think. So yeah, pretty much now I run every other day, 3 or 4 times a week. Right now, especially coming off this little like foot injury that I had,
Yeah.
my mileage is like less than 30 miles a week. But I'm doing so much time on the cycle and Stairmaster and weight room that it all balances out.
Yeah. And would you say you're pretty data heavy when it comes to all the things that are not running?
I'm data heavy as in meticulously tracking my sleep and heart rate during my workouts. Yes. But maybe not data heavy in terms of, like, how some people on their runs are, like, do specific intervals, and I don't
Hmm.
know, I never do intervals really.
Right. But at this point, you've decided the Stairmasters, that's your thing.
Mhm.
Is there data to back that up, or is that just something that you think is the best for you because of, you get the opportunity to study and multitask?
It's more that, like, to tell you the truth, it just logistically works best in my life, like, this morning, the hour on the Stairmaster, I also was able to do, like, 40 board style questions on a platform called UWorld, and,
Yeah.
like, cycling and running just doesn't allow me to do that as efficiently and, like, as focused on the questions. So, because my doing a 3-year MD is simply not gonna give me time to work out for 3 hours separately every day from everything I need to do, the stairs just work for me.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the 3-year MD. So you completed college in 3 years, you
Mhm,
completed your master's program in a year.
mhm.
You're doing your medical school, which is normally 4 or even 5 years.
Right.
How have you been able to just get through these things faster than the norm?
I mean, I think that for college, I was able to because I had some, like, advanced placement courses, like, you get enough 5s on certain AP exams in high school, you can use some of those and earn blank credits. I was just not gonna lie, I was extremely dissatisfied with what my experience was like at home on Zoom at Harvard.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do against the university because the thing is
Yeah.
it's almost like I loved so much the Harvard experience that having to do it at home, I was like, something needs to change. Like, this is not
Yeah.
going to work for me. So that's when I had started like figuring out that I'd be a class of 2022 grad was that beginning of sophomore year when I was on Zoom. So then by the time I came back to campus, I knew I was like a senior. I only had those credits left. So that's sort of separate. But the med school thing, I think it sort of feels like you glean something from every phase of your life to become the best version of yourself. And you know what works and what doesn't. So for me, like sleeping a ton, not never socially isolating, always spending time with friends, touch points with family, thinking about my long-term career goals and working out every day keeps me perfectly balanced. So I just did that in all of medical school, like without pause, treat my
Hmm.
FaceTime with my mom like it was this important meeting, treat my bedtime like it's the most important meeting. And then you're just able to, I think, execute at a higher, more efficient level if you stick to your non negotiables.
Yeah. And would you say that there's anything else that has helped you balance that?
Other than those 5 important things I touched on,
Yeah.
I'm like fueling well, fuels the brain and the body. And just, well, like NYU itself is such a fantastic institution. I'm so continually impressed by how brilliant my classmates are that it holds me to a higher standard.
Yeah.
Even just studying near classmates who know more than me about, say, like neurology or something, I'll like bounce ideas off of them. And I feel like that has just infiltrated me in the best, most positive way. And then I had like fantastic radiology mentors that I feel like really, when I said I was interested in this specialty, was kind of like late that I decided that. And so I was like
Hmm.
scrambling. But the mentors that I've had here have really allowed that to all fall into place, still within the 3-year MD timeline, which I'm really grateful for. So yeah, I definitely can't take credit for like everything I've done in my life. I think the people in my life have like uplifted me in so many ways.
Yeah. And so after graduating, can you tell us what the journey looks like after medical school?
Yeah, so it's a little bit different depending on what specialty you apply into. So the journey I'm going to give is just for me, for diagnostic radiology, which
Yeah,
is
of
my
course.
specialty. We do like a 1-year transitional year or prelim year before the 4 years of radiology residency, but
Mm,
it's still 5 years of residency total. So basically
okay.
Friday, March 20th, I'll open a letter for match day that has a program for 2026-27 academic year and then a program for 27 to 31 academic years. So 2030 all the way to 2031 and it's like a 1+4. Those programs don't communicate, so I'll have to move twice.
Hmm.
This is not this is a canon event for people who go into radiology. This is just how it is. But yeah, so I'll be like an intern, a PGY1 first year resident doctor for this upcoming academic year. That will start late June through June of 27. And then by July 2027, I'll be an R1 or PGY2, a second year resident doctor, and just be working my way through the program for 4 more years as a doctor. And then I'll finish as either a fellow or attending radiologist.
Yeah. And do you think so? You mentioned at least one move that's just already known. Do you
Yeah.
think that there's going to be another move after residency, or are you going to try to maintain that locality where you're at?
Well, there would guarantee be 2 moves because I currently live in New
Mm,
York City, then I'll move for my
right.
transitional year, and then I'll move for the radiology residency part. Then in a perfect world, because I am thinking that I'll wanna stay on at that residency for a fellowship because I am super interested in breast radiology, I'd like to stay in that area,
Yeah.
but it all depends on what match day letter says
Yeah.
because like, for instance, I'm pretty interested in doing radiology in Cleveland. There are fantastic healthcare
Hmm.
programs there, and my whole family is there.
Yeah,
If
of
I
course.
don't match in Cleveland, then I might look to do fellowship and attending ship elsewhere, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping I'll be setting up shop.
And so, for those who don't know, this is how I understand matching. It's essentially like speed dating, where you interview with a bunch of residencies and
Mhm.
then they interview with others, and you kind of match your top 1 to 10, is it? And then they rank you from 1 to 10 within, including others who have interviewing. And then the match is essentially where you meet in some sort of algorithm
Yes,
to become a match. Is that right?
that's right. Other than that, the portal actually you can rank up to 300 programs because
Oh, wow.
getting into residency is very it's competitive, especially
Yeah.
for a specialty that's more, niche and specific like radiology, and there's less
Mhm.
slots. So my rank list is longer than that, but,
Wow.
that's correct. And the algorithm, fun fact, calculates it in 7 minutes. So
Wow.
there's some day early in March where in 7 minutes the algorithm knows, but they have
That's
to
it.
until match day.
Yeah. That's wild. And so that's what you're going through now,
Mhm.
trying to find the best match, and then you'll rank them, and then you'll go into residency, start living your life. I think that you've mentioned that you want to take your running to another level.
Mhm.
Is there something that, like, how do you see the running looking during residency?
I have no idea. I don't know. I know that I want to continue road racing about every 3 months, just it doesn't even matter what the distance is. I probably I mean, to be honest, I envision it possibly taking a step back because
Mm,
being a doctor isn't easy, and granted, being a med student wasn't easy either, but it was definitely more flexible than being, like, an actual doctor working in the hospital.
yeah.
Like, when I'm on emergency medicine, ICU, cardiac ICU, general surgery, inpatient medicine, peds inpatient, sometimes you're working, like, 7 A to 7 P or even longer, depending on if your
Hmm.
notes aren't ready or a patient needs something. So, I'm not really sure what my running's gonna look like, but broadly, my goals are to still continue to do 2 world marathon majors every year until the trials. So this year, Boston, Chicago, next year, TBD, TBD. And then I also want to just race something every 3 months, even if it's like a 5K, because maybe that's all I had time to train for.
Right.
I think that if for the next 5 years I have to be like a 5K, 10K girl, just sheerly because I don't have enough time to do like a 15, 16-mile weekend run, then that's how it's going to have to be because I love medicine and I don't want anything to suffer in that department. But also, I mean, there were times when I didn't people were like, "You can't do it in medical school," and I did. So, we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes.
Yeah, sometimes I get offended for you, because a lot of people, once you start seeing success, they're like, "Oh, you could do it this way and be better." And so
Right,
it's,
right. Or people
uh,
will be like, "Oh, I can't wait till she has to work those 80-hour weeks in
yeah,
residency, like, she's not gonna be able to do it." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, those months where I'm working 80 hours in a week, I won't be doing it. You're right. I'll
right.
just be maintaining fitness. I won't be advancing my athletic career in any way." But you best believe I'd be advancing my medical career, so, like, it kind of
Yeah,
feels like even if I, falter in running for a few months, at the same time, I'll be growing so much as a doctor that it doesn't really matter to me too much. Because at the end of the day, I know that if I just maintain this mentality of like delayed gratification, patience, and longevity fitness,
yeah,
that when I'm attending physician at 29, 30 years old and I want to return to marathons with a better schedule, then I can do that. So the world is my oyster and it's going to look definitely different in residency, but I'm not in like a rush to go a 2:29 marathon if that's not what's going to be best for my body during residency. We'll see.
yeah. Your cup will always be full, which
Right,
is
right.
awesome.
Exactly.
And so, from what I understand as well, residency, med school into residency, the doctor road is pretty long. Financially, you start making money, like good money, later
Mhm.
on in that route. How do you see yourself sustaining all of the things you do? Do you intend to, use social media to try to monetize, running because you see that on social media. And once you start to gather this following, there are opportunities. How do you see that playing while you're in residency?
I mean, I think one thing at baseline is I'm extremely, extremely frugal person. Like I'm all about the sales. I'm all about cheap cost of living. I
Yeah,
attended tuition-free medical school. I'll graduate with absolutely no debt
that's
in
awesome.
any phase of my life. So I'll only be net positiving by the time I'm a resident doctor in June. And I specifically have applied to and plan to live in places with low cost of living for, like, say, next year if I end up in Florida or South Carolina, which are programs I'm looking at pretty strongly. Those are pretty cheap. And then it doesn't really get cheaper than Ohio. So, like,
That's right.
concern. Well, the first thing to answer your question is just living below my means, which is something I've
Hmm.
I've been trained to do my whole life. Like I'm really not a super frills person. I don't have gadgets or like I've never owned a car or anything. So just yeah, living below my means. Then secondly, I do actually have as it stands, my first adult paycheck actually came from being a professional runner. Which
Oh,
that
wow.
announcement has not come out yet. It will soon, but I am contracted with a company that no matter how poorly I ran this year, I would still be paid and salaried from that running company, which was kind of honestly my goal for end of 2025. Was in 2026, I'd like to be a professional runner for a company to help me go to these races financially
Hmm.
and be supported. So I feel very supported by that company. And then the third, of course, well, no, third actually form of income is I do tutor a lot. I do tutor like pre-med courses and I coach on the side. So I make training plans for people. With the full disclosure that I'm not like a certified personal trainer or lift coach, but
Right.
people who are just thinking like, I like the way she trains. I want to cross train too, but I want to see it on a calendar. I'm gonna, help like have her help me out. And then the fourth, of course, is the social media question. This is what I'll say about that. I am like honestly bad at social media. I'm not good. I don't know. I'm not good at editing. I don't make good
Yeah.
quality videos. I'm so like, I'm not very creative or good in the tech space. I just kind of like post what's on my mind. And I think that
Yeah.
doesn't really align with like monetizing my social media. And then secondly, I would never want my followers to think, "Oh, it feels like the only way I can keep up, like, with her just, like, account or her times is if I get these products that she's, like,
Hmm.
offering." And I'm so
Yeah.
anti-materialism, consumerism that I don't
Yeah.
really think I'll end up I don't know, but, like, I don't really think I'll end up successfully monetizing my social media because I just don't even think I'm, like, savvy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you already have a lot on your plate. You're doing tutoring and coaching
Mhm,
and med school. That's incredible. And you preach, when you train, this is what works for you,
mhm,
and it might not work for someone else. But what advice, some general piece of advice, would you give to someone in any aspects of, how you've gotten to where you are, whether it's transitioning from college, med school,
mhm.
being a high elite athlete? What general advice would you give to anybody listening to this?
I think my number one piece of advice that I'll always stand by is to sleep. Like, if you want to execute in your career or fitness or both at a high level, you have to prioritize the thing that is proven by science to be the number one recovery tool for our
Yeah.
bodies and our minds and our mental health, everything. Like to be the best, daughter, friend, mother, father, whatever it is, the role in your life. You have to really make that a priority, and I say this because I feel like it's really worked for me to balance
Yeah.
everything. That one is, like, kind of a cop out because everyone knows they should sleep more, but I mean to, like, really integrate it in your life, and then
Hmm.
but what I mean, I guess, more broadly, than that is, it's okay to be selfish with your time to some extent. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like sometimes we think we owe our time to others all the time. We always have to say yes to this social thing, always have to say yes to this person who's asking this. And the answer is if it's not filling your cup or it just doesn't really work in your schedule, then either find a compromise that works for you or like also it's okay to say no. Like just because you're a single 23-year-old girl in the city doesn't mean every Saturday night you have to go out to the bars and then like
Yeah.
wake up Sunday feeling a little bit poopy. You're
Hmm.
allowed to say, I like my little life and I want to stay in. And then I want to actually ask that friend that asked me to go out last night to like go to a yoga class on Sunday morning. Like that's perfectly fine. And so
Yeah.
I think just setting good boundaries, being selfish with your time and getting good sleep, the earlier you can learn that in your life, that you don't owe anyone anything, I think the better.
Yeah, that's amazing. I need to do better with my own sleep. Preparing for this, I tried to look at my sleep scores, and I won't mention those because they're not as good. I think you recently posted like a 99. I was like, oh my
Yes.
goodness, she's crushing the sleep game.
Yeah,
No
and this morning
kidding.
was like, I think I got 9 hours, 20 minutes, so, like, I'm always over 9.
Ready to go for the day. Yeah, but it's been awesome. Before we close, what races do you have coming up?
Oh, yes, sure. So my next race is the United New York Half that I'm running in the
Yeah,
pro field for, which I'm so excited for. Steep competition. I mean, I
yeah,
am not even, my PR isn't even in the top 20, but that excites me. So I think, and the half marathon is such a sustainable distance. It's not one where you're on the start line like, am I going to be super injured after this? Hopefully not. So
yeah.
that's March 15th. Then, March 28th, again, this is, like, all under the guise that I'm gonna be healthy and everything will be okay.
Hmm.
I'm running my first track 10K in California, so I'm excited
Nice.
about that one. I have never run a track 10K, only ever rode, so we'll see how that goes. Less hills, which will be nice.
Yeah.
And then I'm really, like, kind of building in the background of those two for Boston on April, that Monday in April is 20
Yep.
something, I think. And
Yeah.
that'll be a full. And then I have the Brooklyn half, teens, one of those weekends in May.
Hmm.
Um, and then the women's mini 10K June 6th. So I have like a bunch of fun different distances basically about every month,
Yeah.
if not two in a month between now and June. Because I feel like I have that time crunch of, okay, do as many races as you can before you're a real doctor.
Yeah. And July is when you have to essentially go
Not
off
late
to
June.
wherever. Yeah. So just packing it in and then you'll get to move
Hmm.
or not, or we'll see.
Yep.
But that'll be exciting. That sounds like an awesome summer. And I can't wait to hear and see more about it.
Wait, I actually have one last question for you. How do
Yeah.
you, because I actually don't know the answer to this. How did you come across my story?
I came across your story from the Marathon podcast.
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
Yep. And so I've started this podcast, the Retired Athlete Mentality podcast. And then I saw that you came across and you were on that podcast.
Hmm.
And then I saw that you were a swimmer. And so I was like, hey, let me shoot my shot, get you on the podcast and try to tell your story from a point of view that not many podcasts, I think, are doing,
Yeah.
which is bringing on athletes that play in college, play at a high level, and how they transition to endurance sports.
Hmm.
Some people take a year, 2 years, 7 years to get back into a routine. And some people you'll see struggle because, they don't have that same routine
Right.
that they had in college. And so it's an interesting conversation. And I thought that you'd be a really good guest, especially for so many people who are interested in how you train.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you found me because yeah, this has been great. And I do think this podcast is a unique perspective, like from all the ones I've been on. One that
Yeah.
really focused on like my being an ex athlete, I guess, which now I'm
Yeah.
an
Sort
athlete.
of. Not really.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Felicia, this has been an awesome conversation. Where can people follow you and connect with you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I have a personal account, which is just my first and last name, Felicia Pasadyn. And that's more like family medicine, just things I do around in New York, keep it more professional. And then Well Felicia Fit is the username of my Instagram account that I post more frequently, but that's mostly all around fitness and running. And then my TikTok is also Well Felicia Fit, which again is more of a fitness oriented account. So any of those three places.
Awesome, Felicia. Well, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you for coming on the Retired Athlete Mentality podcast, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you for having me.